everybody, and welcome back to Very Biased Opinions for a new season of Bundesliga predictions. Thomas, why are we doing the Bundesliga again?
Because we bloody love the Bundesliga. It's our new favourite league.
We genuinely did. We did it as a little sample coming out of lockdown, and we just found it a genuinely enjoyable league to do, and we wanted to carry it through for this season. As always, there will be timestamps down below in the description. You can also follow along on the chapters feature on the YouTube video itself. Please give this video a like and please subscribe to the channel. I know you've got a couple of things to say, Tom.
So we are now an Amazon affiliate seller, so please, you're buying some from Amazon, please click below. There's a link. Also, if you'd like a free Audible trial, we're also offering those. It's 30 days, it's free, so please have a click on that. Every time you do click that, we get a little bit more funding, which allows us to make this video even more exciting. On top of that, we are sponsored by Grandstand Bettors. Please go have a look at their website. They are fantastic tipster websites. They give out a free pick every day. They are great. Have a look at them. They're fantastic.
And I've got to jump in with one more thing, because a friend of mine, David Aris, he usually does the Oxford Half Marathon every year, because he's crazy. I don't know why anyone would do that. But he raises money for Sobel House. And obviously there's no Oxford Half Marathon this year, but he is still doing a half marathon, trying to raise money. So a link will be down in the description for that as well. It's a great cause. If you can just throw a few pennies in, that'll be much appreciated. And I think we've got all grandstanding, self-promotion and hot dogging out of the way. So let's jump in to the first match.
Bayern Munich hosting Schalke 04.
It all starts with the champions on Friday night, Thomas. Will they be as all-conquering as they were? And will Schalke be as bad as they were last season? The usual thing we do for Bayern Munich is just to list off all of their players and say how good they are. Have you got much else to add on them?
I'm just going to quote the three things I have. Leroy Sané has signed. Good player. Thiago looks like he's probably on his way out. They can probably deal with that. And if you bet on them, they're 1-7 to win the league. That means for every £7 you bet, you will win £1. One.
Absolutely. And it is, even without a ball being kicked in the Bundesliga, it is impossible to look beyond Bayern Munich.
They're too good.
Just of how good they were last season. It's such a short turnaround between one season finishing and another season starting. They were streets ahead of everybody at the end last season, weren't they?
No, they're too good. And we're not going to waste time talking about how much we love Bayern Munich, because every single one of these is going to be me listing 10 players I think are the best in the world at their position that play for them, and then Ian talking about the other team. So Ian, tell me about Wagner-led Schalke, who I will never back to win a football match ever.
Yeah, they were really poor, weren't they, coming out of lockdown? I don't think they won a game, did they, after the post-COVID period last season? So they need massive improvements if they're not going to be sliding down the league again. One of their key players did go to Juventus, that was Weston McKennie. But I do look at their side, and I do think they are a little bit stronger than what they finished last season. A lot of that is a common thing. What you'll hear us say is loan players that have come back in who make their side a little bit stronger, like Mark Oof's come back in from Koln. They really lacked goal. Why did they even loan him out? I don't know. Ben Taleb's come back in, Skibitsky as well. All players that will make them stronger. They've got 36-year-old Ibicic is in there too, who they signed on a free contract. But he's just an experienced player that they need. They were so young, their starting lineup. They needed some experienced players.
Yeah.
And some of their injuries have come back as well, like Stramboli, Rahman, Harit, Serda. And in that as well, they did have some promising players. Goalkeeping thing is going to be an issue because they sold Nubel to Bayern Munich, who's just going to warm their bench. So they've got Ralph Farman in as their new number one, who's coming from Brann in Norway. So who knows if he's going to be a decent keeper or not. But you can't judge him on this game because this game is Bayern. But I do think that they'll be a lot stronger, and David Wagner will certainly have a lot more options this season. And I'm just going to throw it back over to you and say, what do you think the score is going to be? I'm going to predict you're going to say nil in the Schalke column.
I am going to say nil in the Schalke column, and we're going to be unsurprised when I say 5 in the Bayern column.
Yeah, it's hard not to think that, isn't it? I'll just go one less, which will probably be to my detriment. I'll say 4-0 to Bayern. 1. Union Berlin versus FC Augsburg.
Two sides we're probably not that excited about. When Union Berlin are able to get their fans back, I think they'll be a lot better than they were to end last year. I'm going to quickly talk about Augsburg, and I'll throw it over to you to talk about your Union. Augsburg led by Hiko Herrick. I believe that's how you say his name, but God knows. Last season they ended in 15th. They didn't exactly cover themselves in glory, but they've stolen goalkeeper from Union Berlin, Rafael Gikiewicz, who probably has one of the best names for a goalkeeper in the league.
He was good though, wasn't he, last season?
He was very good. He was solid.
Yeah.
Philip Max went to PSV for $8 million. We know they need to improve defensively. They were pretty terrible at the end of last season before they won a couple at the end to guarantee themselves safety. Felix Udukai was there on loan last season. The center back's now signed for Wolfsburg for $7 million. So again, another loss. Caliguri from Schalke and Strobel from Gladbach will hopefully help provide goals for Niederlechner, who went on a massive goal drought and then scored a bunch right at the very end. They need to see more from players like Richter, Loven, and Vargas in this. Honestly, two sides I'm not that excited to see play again. Ian, tell me about Union Berlin.
Yeah, I will. I do think Augsburg will be one of the sides that could possibly go down this season, but I don't really have any fears about Union going down. I still think at times they weren't great, but what we did see is they were very, very strong, very committed, very together. Urs Fischer really has this game plan nailed down, and all the players just buy into it. They're so good at just not having the ball, working hard, and just being effective with the limited amount of possession that they have. Excellent from set pieces. And if you go a goal down to them, it's so hard to get back into the game. Obviously, Gikiewicz going to Augsburg is a big loss because he did make, he kept them in a lot of games last season.
Yeah.
But they still do have most of the strong spine that they had, like Trimmel, Gentner, Schotterbeck, Butler. It shows what strong spine they have. Sebastian Anderson's still there. I heard rumours he might be going somewhere else, so they lose him. That's a big loss.
That actually could drop them into a relegation battle.
Could do, yeah. He got 12 goals. Yeah, he got 12 goals for them last season. Rumours he might be going to Cologne, and God, yeah, Cologne really do need a striker as well. So they bought some. They have bought some forward players in, so hopefully they might be able to help Anderson out or replace him a little bit. But I just think Union will be all right, and I think they're going to get off to a winning start. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for Union.
And that is spectacular. I've also gone for a 1-0 win. We are walking in lockstep currently for the Bundesliga, which leads us into a slightly more exciting match because it's Kamada Watch! Frankfurt hosting DSC Arminia Bielefeld. Ian, it's time for Kamada Watch. I'll start with everything else, and then we'll talk about the lead man at Frankfurt. So Adi Hütter is the manager. They finished in 9th last season. That was a serious step back for them. They were not good enough. They started the season awfully, ended it a lot better than they started it. They were in Europe last year, which I think actually is probably one of the things that hurt them the most. The squad was not big enough to deal with that.
Classic Europa League. Everyone wants to get in it till you're actually in it.
And then you just want out. Rebic has gone to AC Milan. Andre Silva has come in, which is big. The fact they'll not be playing 1 million games this year, like we said, is really good. Steven Zuber from Hoffenheim is going to add to a talented squad. This Frankfurt team is good, by the way. Like, we knew they were good. They just started terribly. Trapp is a great goalkeeper. Hinteregger is a great defender who also scored goals. Silva, Bastos, Kostic is great on the wing. But the man to look out for is a man who had a coming-of-age party last year. That's right, all season you are going to be getting Kamada Watch from Thomas Pickering. This man is a freaking devil on the ball. He runs defenses ragged. He plays like a champion. He is a winner. This is the next great footballer on the world stage, Daichi Kamada. You heard it here. Watch it first. And before Ian gets to say anything, Frankfurt are going to win 4-0, and Kamada is going to score a hat trick.
We're going to disagree on this one. I'm just telling you that straight away. Right. Kamada Watch, coming of age party was a lot better than when you were saying it was his coming out party last season, put it that way. And Andre Silva signing on a permanent basis is massive because he was good for them last season on loan, so it was great that they got him. Yeah. But they are up against the new boys in Arminia Bielefeld, back in the Bundesliga for the first time since 2009. They probably surprised a few people by winning Bundesliga 2, but they didn't just win it, they won it an absolute canter, won it by miles. They had the best goal scoring record and the best defence as well, so they ain't going to be any pushovers in this league just because they're not a fancied name of a team coming up like a Hamburg or something like that. play a lot of 4-1-4-1, so they have a very solid base with Fabian Klos, their lead goal scorer, with 22 goals last season. I didn't mention their boss. I will just quickly note him because he is in the notes. Uwe Neuhaus, and obviously he did a great job for them last season. Marcel Hartel, midfielder. Andres Volgslammer, great name. Volgslammer. Attacking midfielder are certainly players to watch out there. Great seasons last season too. Signed a couple of good players as well. Mike van der Horn from Swansea. He was really good last season when the Swans got in the playoffs, so he will certainly make them more solid. And Ritsu Doan is a guy they've bought in from PSV as well. He's going to rival Kamada Thomas, another Japanese player in the Bundesliga. But they play pretty good football, so I'm really actually looking forward to watching this. And I actually think they're going to get something on the opening day. I'm going to back them for a draw, which completely backfired for me in the Premier League when I backed the newcomers coming up to get anything. But I'm going for a 1-1 draw in this game.
How can you bet on 1-1? Daichi Kamada's playing. There will be at least 4 goals, Rajan. You know how this works, Ian. God's sake.
Van der Horn's going to have him in his pocket. SV Werder Bremen versus Hertha Berlin.
Because I get to talk first, Ian, I'm going to talk about one of our favorite teams in the Bundesliga. I'm going to talk about Hertha Berlin because I want nothing to do with Werder Bremen ever. For recorded history, that club shouldn't exist. Send them back to Bundesliga B. We don't want them. Hertha Berlin are led by Bruno Labbadia. Last season they came 10th, and they're known to have one of the most exciting young teams in Germany. Labbadia really changed the fortunes of Hertha last season. They look like a side who could easily push for Europe. If it wasn't for a very late 3-game slump at the end of last season, they would have been much higher in the league. Ibisevic has gone to Schalke. Schwalwa has come in from Freiburg for Adrian.
He's nailed it, folks. He took 5 years of German.
I actually did take 3 years of German, so this isn't great. Ziefweek, honest to God, are these real names?
I don't think they're German names. But
it's definitely not. It's coming for 4 million from Groningen. They've got 2 returning loanees who could get game time, and Duda from Norwich and Toussaint from Lyon. Kuna's the star. He was fantastic once they brought him in. He scored a boatload of goals, but Bayata, Luke Bacchio, Dilrosen all look to build on like a really good end to the season. John Cordoba is currently rumored to be joining them, but Hertha Berlin were one of those really exciting young sides last season. Every time you watched them, you felt like they had a chance to win, except obviously if they played Bayern, and no one has a chance to win if Bayern turn up. And I really like this Hertha side. So Ian, tell me about my least favorite side in the Bundesliga.
I will. I just want to quickly say, I think Hertha should be really pushing maybe even Champions League this season. Could do.
It's tough. There's one position, right?
I mean, with Labbadia, the only thing I would say is with Labbadia is you straight away you saw the work rate was excellent, but then after a few games they did get a bit tired. Yeah, and I just hope over the course of the season that isn't something that's they'll need a big squad in order to do it.
They did bring in a ton of players though, and obviously there's the other striker whose name I can't remember who came in from like AC Milan or whatever for 30 million quid, who's also in the squad. So I think they've improved because of that.
Get rid of Solomon Kalou. I mean, he has gone, by the way. Let's talk about Werder Bremen, who did the great escape, or the lucky escape, if you want to call it, last season. Yeah, Florian Klofeld's side drastically underachieved and only stayed up by the skin of their teeth by beating Heidenheim over a 2-legged playoff. They had some freak games, though, didn't they? I mean, like they only won 2 games all season, and when they needed to win, I think they won something like 8-0 or something on the final day.
It was nuts.
Yeah, but they only won 8 games all season, so really poor return for a side that is supposed to do a lot better in the Bundesliga. Bittencourt is really their star guy, and he has signed for them, but another one of their key players is on the verge of going to Villa. Everybody seems to be going to Villa in Rashica. They have had a guy come in from Dortmund called Topek, who should shore up them at the back. And Tom, all the talk about Werder Bremen has been about this Man United loanee. So I'm sure you know a lot about him. Taif Chong.
Right, I'm gonna need everyone to strap in. We got about 45 minutes of Chong analysis coming your way. No, he's made a couple appearances for Man United. He's never looked that bad, but it's always looked like Solskjaer had an idea of which players he's going to bring up, and he never looked like one of the ones that he was really interested in. But he's been really impressive in pre-season, and as a Man United fan, it's going to be really exciting to see him play in this league. It's just unfortunately it's to play for the worst team.
Going on to predictions, I'm just going to say everything I predicted for Werder Bremen last season I got wrong. So I am going to be back in Hertha Berlin. So everybody just literally lump money on Werder Bremen this weekend because I think Hertha are going to win. I think it's going to be a 3-1 win for Hertha.
Okay, I've got 3-0 win for Hertha. So we are really still, we've had one disagreement basically in this. Capital F, capital C, capital Koln versus capital T, capital S, capital G. 1899 Hoffenheim.
So Hoffenheim did get a Europa League place last season. They finished in 6th place and really went under the radar. Really, they were like there was a lot of talk about like your Wolfsburg and
out of
your
nowhere at the end of
Gladbach.
the season. Just boom.
And they had a really good end. They were very, very solid and ended the season in 6th place. So their manager, Sebastian Hoeneß, I don't know if you remember, Tom, they actually got rid of their manager like right at the end of the season last season. So he's a guy that's come in from the Bayern second team. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. Obviously, he's going to play. He said he's going to play defend with a high line and play exciting football. That has been what he said in the press. So it'll be interesting to see how they go on that one. Fullback Steven Zuber has gone to Frankfurt with Ganisevic coming in from Frankfurt going the other way. So it'll be interesting to see how he deals with the more senior players. And they're going to need a decent-sized squad, you would imagine, to compete in Europe and to compete in the Bundesliga as well. With players like Baumgartner, Skone, Kramovic, I still think they are quite an underrated side. And I think we underrate them quite a bit and often forget about how good they are. And I think they'll be solid in this game. But before we get to predictions, I need to give you a little introduction into Cologne, Thomas, to say that we haven't spoke about him in a while, but I can assure you that Hennis is fine. He's doing well. And he is looking forward to the new season.
All right, enough talking about this damn goat. So Cologne are managed by Marcus Gidsel. They came 14th last year. They certainly weren't the most exciting side to watch. They're probably one of the better players. John Cordoba is going to Hertha by the look of it.
I don't think they won a game post-lockdown either. I think it was them and Schalke that didn't win.
I think you could be very right. There's a couple teams that plummeted at the end of last season. It looks like Seb Anderson could be coming in from Union. That would be huge for them and pretty damaging to Union. But let's see what happens. It's such an even league, by the way, down here, that it doesn't seem to matter where you end. You just poach players from each other all the time. It's a bit like incest.
Just like it. Just like it.
Really worried about the quality in the side. Where are the goals coming from if Seb Anderson doesn't come? Mark Ute's gone back to Schalke. Preseason's been promising. They had a big win in the cup, but you really just don't know right now. They need the likes of Rebechi, Modesta, and Drexler to step it up this year because they're definitely one of the relegation-threatened clubs. And I am going to go for a Hoffenheim win here, Ian. I'm going to go for a Hoffenheim 2-1 victory over the Koln.
Yeah, we've been pretty boring and we're copying each other a lot, but I think it'll be a 2-0 win for Hoffenheim. I really don't fancy Cologne that much this season. They'll want the fans to come back. And again, German football leading the way with in terms of fans coming back because they are going to be staggering limited numbers in for these opening games, which is great to see. But I just think that Hoffenheim are going to be too strong. It's going to be a 2-0 win. Racing Bullen Leipzig versus FSV Mainz 0-5.
So let's talk about Mainz, the club I constantly accused of having Podolski play for them earlier in his playing days before somebody finally corrected me and told me I was wrong. So I'll do it again. Mainz, the club where Podolski started his career. Legendary striker that he is. They're managed by Akim Bierlorzer. They came 13th last season. Another of the clubs who really didn't look great last season but managed to put a couple wins together at the very end and all of a sudden come a respectable 13th. Looks like one of their best players, Robin Quaison, could be going to Burnley. Really interesting to see if that happens. No idea where goals will come. They're kind of exciting in that they bomb forward, but good lord, are they terrible defensively. They're the sort of team that commit 9 players to an attack without thinking about it. They lost by a combined 13 goals to RB last season. So I think I get to do the first prediction on scores, but I'll wait for you to tell us about the Racing Bullen Leipzig.
Yeah, I do think Mainz could be one of the sides that goes down this season. I think the sides that have come up are actually pretty decent, and I don't see just if they don't improve defensively, I just don't see how they're going to win many games. But RB Leipzig, as we know, Tom, they are the darlings of German football. I'm sure everybody was desperate for them to get to that Champions League final and win, but they did, despite faltering a little bit at the end, still have a great season, and at times some of the football they played was absolutely breathtaking. They were third in the league, Champions League semi-final, so definitely represents progress for Nagelsmann, who remains one of the hottest properties in terms of a young manager in world football. But you can't talk about Leipzig without addressing the fact that they won't have one of their key guys, or even two of their key guys in this time, which is obviously because Timo Werner's gone to Chelsea, and Patrick Schick has gone back to Roma on loan, as you talked about earlier, or will talk about. He might be going to Leverkusen. The guy at the back, who you're going to say his name because you always do such a good job of saying it in a northern accent.
Hey up, Chuck, it's Upamecano.
He did so well in those Champions League games. He's attracted interest from just about every side in the league, especially teams in the Premier League. So it'll be amazing to see if he actually stays or not. Angelino has come in on loan from Man City. Hua Hee-chan, £9 million from Salzburg. Salzburg's got to be like their feeder club, isn't it? RB Salzburg. So yeah, it's a season. I mean, the early season they're going to have to deal without Sebastian Lainer, and Sabitzer are also out injured, so may not be a great start for them. One of their key features of the Bundesliga last season was they were hard to beat, so I certainly wouldn't expect them to lose this game, especially as they beat Mainz 8-0 and 5-0 in games last season and blew them away. But how they deal without Werner's goals and his general presence is going to be probably the most interesting thing about Leipzig over the first few weeks of the Bundesliga. And, of course, I'm going to have them to win. I think they're going to win. This is my 5-0. 5-0 Leipzig.
Oh, nice. I'm going 4-0. So, excellent. Exciting. VfL Wolfsburg are hosting the Bayer of Leverkusen.
Thomas,
Right.
before you jump in, I just got to say, I think we said Wolfsburg didn't qualify for Europe, but they did. There was a 7th place awarded. I think it's because of the cup final was between Bayern and Bayer Leverkusen, and that's why they had the extra Europa League place.
Wow.
So Wolfsburg are in Europe.
Fantastic. Right.
As you yawn, yeah, I bet you are fantastic.
Fantastic, dick. It's been quite a quiet summer for Wolfsburg. Couple things have happened. Marcel Tisserand has finalized his transfer to Turkish club Fenerbahce. Young striker Ulysses Lanes Jr. hasn't had the opportunity to play for VSV's senior side, and it looks like he's going on loan to play at SC Heerenveen. John Yeboah has only just returned to the club after a loan spell in the Dutch Eredivisie, but it looks like he's going back. And 30-year-old Spanish international and ex-wonder kid on Football Manager 2008, I think it is, Ignacio Camacho has announced his retirement from professional football due to the fact that his foot has apparently told him enough.
Well, so what? So he's returned and retired on the same day?
No, he's just retired. I just can't get my words correct today. He is going to stay and work and to become a coach.
They're going to be good to watch, Thomas. That's the main thing I want to know, because last season at times they were goddamn boring.
Well, they were
not to lose rather than to go and win. When they've got players that can win games, like Stefan.
They were so boring.
Yeah,
they were so boring.
Exactly, and they've got good players that have got a lot of quality. So I don't see why they did that. I mean, they were poor in the Europa League when we saw them as well, and they were beaten by a very good Shakhtar Donetsk side, but well beaten by them as well.
Oh, they were owned.
And yeah, that's my main thing for them. Is just, are they actually going to be exciting to watch? Because they were just so turgid at times.
Ian, I wish I had an answer for that, but let me talk about Bayer Leverkusen, and then we can talk about our scores, because our scores will probably reveal how we feel they're going to play this season.
10-0.
So the really big move Bayer have made is to sell key man Kai Havertz to Chelsea. Chelsea have cashed in on the coronavirus pandemic and paid well under market value for probably one of the hottest commodities in European football, a guy that had was either creating or scoring more than a goal a game after coronavirus, and in the lead up to coronavirus had scored like 5 straight goals. But they signed Patrick Schick. He was obviously on loan at RB Leipzig last year, scored 10 goals. Then he went back to Roma, and now Roma sold him on to Leverkusen. So they'll probably be looking for Schick to be the main source of goals for them this season. Obviously, 10 goals maybe not be the most exciting total, but he's got the chance here to improve. He was good when he played for RB Leipzig. Outside of that, there's not a lot of differences in their squad, but there are 2 different Benders playing for this club, and I'm very excited for that.
You need to give me an LGBT warning before that one.
Wirtz was fantastic to end the year last year. He said he's looking to add goals. That has been a serious problem for him, but it looks like he's going to try and take on the mantle of Kai Havertz of being this really exciting attacking player that can't be handled by anyone else. Obviously, Diaby up front, PSG player back in the day, has been fantastic for them, and he'll look to kind of push on and kind of get rid of the silly mistakes that dogged his game last year, especially when he'd shoot from 30 yards and it would like fly out of the stadium.
So many times as well, he just runs around in a circle. He'd rather take two more people on than have the shot at times as well.
He is hands down one of those players that when it clicks, he's going to be absolutely unplayable. It's just a question now of if. Bailey doesn't look like he's going to be fit for it. Polino's out with a knee injury. We know Peter Bosz plays some of the best football in the world. It's all position-based. They are going to own the ball. And now it's time. Ian, do you have anything else to say about Leverkusen?
Just the fact, again, a little bit like Wolfsburg, is they just sort of like, they just sort of shot themselves in the foot a bit, didn't they? They really should have got Champions League last season, and they really blew it. So they got a Europa League, deal with the Europa League rather than Champions League this time around. And just to be, and again, like Leipzig, how do they deal without the big hole that Havertz is going to leave behind is what's going to interest me in the opening few weeks of the season.
So I'm going to go for a Leverkusen win, but Wolfsburg are very well organized. They are very defensive. That's why we found them boring, because all they did was organize defensively and not worry about attacking. So I've got a Bayer 2-0 win.
Yeah, I think it'll be 2-1, but I'm going for a Bayer Leverkusen away win as well. VfB Stuttgart versus Sport Club Freiburg.
Now it's time for me to apologize because I haven't done my end of the research, and I know Ian will be able to talk for days about both of these clubs. So I'm going to say the one note that I've written down and then let Ian go ham on both these sides.
I don't know if I can say a lot about Freiburg.
Cock left Freiburg.
Yeah, obviously that's a huge, he was a great player for Freiburg last season. Very versatile player as well. Be interesting to see if Leeds play him just as a centre-back or as centre-mid, because Freiburg used to flip-flop that quite a lot. But they have got in Demirovic from Alaves for 3.7 million as a striker, and they did need strikers. That was one of the things about Freiburg last season, is they a little bit like a better version of Union Berlin at times, and Freiburg fans are probably going to hate that, but just a very organised, very disciplined side that are good without the ball and are good at sitting in games and taking their chances when they come. Very, very good at set pieces as well.
A couple actual facts I do know about Freiburg, Ian, is that they're coached by Christian Streich. We know that they're going to play the more defensive style, like you said. Flecken's out with an elbow injury. Haber is out with an ankle injury. Doubtful is that Schlotterbeck or Till come back. One of them has a muscular injury. One of them has a bone injury. One of their more exciting players, I think we both watched last season, was Grifo. We kind of really liked him. He was a bit creative. They're going to hope that that Peterson and Höhler can form a nice kind of two-player up front and score some goals for them. And Gunter at the back has been pretty good. He's their captain. Do you want to tell us about Stuttgart?
I will, but I'll just say also as well, money burning a hole in their pocket. Fucking £8 million for Swallow to Hertha, 15 million for Waldschmidt to Benfica, and 13 million for Koch going to Leeds.
There you go.
Get out, spend that money, Freiburg. Stuttgart, obviously, are the other promoted side who came up from Bundesliga 2, finished in second place. It was a very tight race in the end between them, Hamburg and Heidenheim. Pellegrino Matarazzo is their boss. I think they'll struggle a lot more than Bielefeld this season. I mean, they lost 10 games. Their top goal scorer is Nicolas Gonzalez, who got 15 goals, but he is currently injured. They did change. He seemed to be a bit of a tinker man as well. He changed his tactics a lot and his formations a lot. And it was like some of the loanees that had really good seasons for them last season, like Wataru Endo, Sint Truden, Pascal Stenzel, were all pretty good. Argentine Nicolas Gonzalez is one of their key players. They'll need him to have a good season, but I'm not expecting this Stuttgart side to be amazing. And I think this could be a game that they lose early doors. And I'm going to go for I'm going to say 1-0 Freiburg win.
You know what, Ian? It's time for me to pick a draw and go a different direction. I'm going to go with 1-1.
You'll probably get it, you damn git.
And now, Ian, it's time for the game of the weekend, because Borussia Dortmund are hosting Borussia Mönchengladbach. And again, Again, and to all our loyal listeners, I apologize. I was not able to finish my notes on this, but I don't need notes for Gladbach because I want to talk about the things that made them a great side last year and allowed them to push up the table the way they did. Jan Sommer in goal was absolutely immense. We can only expect the same from him. Benza Baini, let's go with that's how you say his name. But he was great marauding up the wings. And then this Gladbach side definitely play with wing backs because they play a 2-2-2, which just looks like the weirdest formation on earth. It's like a column on top of a firm grounding. But they do have such a firm grounding. And in Kramer and Neuhaus, they're able to control the game. Hoffmann and Stindl will probably play in front of them. But where this team really excels is Lilian Thuram's son and Plea. Those two guys seem to just know each other. I don't know if they played together before. I don't know if they're good mates off the pitch or something. But Marco Rose has something special in these two players. They were phenomenal to end last season. Thuram is absolutely massive. He looks like his bloody dad, except he plays at striker and can dribble. It's nuts. This is a guy who this season can make or break the chance for him to be like a top prospect in Europe and one of those players that's going to get signed by the Premier League soon. And Plea is just such a smooth operator up front. He can pass the ball, he can score, and he just seems to always know where Thuram is. Couple question marks for the match here. Embolo's out with an injury. Lazaro's out. Poulsen's out. Zachariah's out. Benez is probably out. But this Gladbach side looked good, and this is definitely match of the week. But Ian, tell us about second place last season, Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah, Borussia Dortmund actually really one of the most exciting sides in the league last season, weren't they? But they still finished miles behind Bayern Munich, and it'll be about how much they can close that gap to Bayern. Really is the big story for them. You'd expect them to be pretty much right up there. Lucien Favre, there's not really much they've bought in over the summer. Obviously, the big thing is out whether Sancho will go to a Premier League side. He's there at the moment, and it looks like he's going to start at the weekend. But whether on deadline day things happen, they never know. Jude Bellingham is a kid they brought in from Birmingham. I don't expect him to start, but they paid 25 million for him, which is an exceptional amount of money for a guy who's he's not played any football at the highest level as well. So big chance they're taking on him. But their squad is excellent. It's very much the same as what we saw last season. Hummel's magnificent at the back. Guerrero was excellent as well. Sancho, Royce, and obviously the star, Erling Haaland up front, who's they're going to be hoping scores as many goals as Lewandowski did to win as many games as Bayern did if they're going to have any chance of getting as many points as Bayern are going to get. And I'm sorry to continually compare them to Bayern, but that is the benchmark that if anybody can match them, it's going to be Dortmund, isn't it? To be fair, they're the only side that can realistically get any close to them. They're a phenomenal side, and it's just whether they can be consistent over the course of the season will just determine whether or not they win the league or not. And they haven't won anything for such a long time now that they really need something to.
Desperately need something.
Yeah, they need something to. Those fans deserve it as well. They got such an amazing support.
Don't sugarcoat this. This is if Favre doesn't win something this year, he's out. Yeah. There's no way they keep him after this. This is make or break for his career.
Yeah, you would say so. But in terms of football, they'll be exciting to watch. They'll be enjoyable to watch, just like they were for many times last season. And great game first up, though. Really, this should be a really enjoyable pick of the weekend, as you said earlier on. And I am going to be backing Dortmund to win this one. I think Sancho will get goals. And I think it'll be all the English newspapers will be talking about how he's going to come to a Premier League side at the end of the weekend. But I think it will be Dortmund 3, Gladbach 1.
Okay, I've got Dortmund 3, Gladbach 2.
Ooh, what a game.
Ladies and gentlemen, all that is left to say to you is to thank you kindly for liking, following, subscribing, watching, believing, dreaming, living, and just being here with us. Thank you so much. Please come back again, and we will see you for week 2 of Die Bundesliga.